December the 2nd, 1805. The plains of Moravia are wrapped in fog and frost. The morning sun has yet to rise, but the armies are already awake, because today will decide the fate of Europe. Facing Napoleon is not one enemy, but two. Tsar Alexander I of Russia, Emperor Francis II of Austria. Two empires, two thrones, two vast armies combined into one coalition. And yet, Napoleon, barely crowned emperor, shows no fear. He studies the map with an eerie calm. His marshals whisper that the enemy's numbers are overwhelming. Napoleon simply nods and replies, "If they think me defeated, they will march exactly where I want them." It is his genius, his signature. He makes weakness into bait. He deliberately weakens his right flank, leaving it looking fragile, exposed. The Allied commanders, confident and eager, take the bait instantly. They order a massive assault on that position, imagining they will crush Napoleon's army from the side. What they don't know is that Napoleon wants them there. Every step they take is a step deeper into his trap. As the Allies descend from the high ground, the famous Pratzen Heights, Napoleon watches the movement like a chess master, waiting for a piece to fall into place. Then, when the Allied center becomes dangerously thin, Napoleon slams his fist on the command table. "Now! Seize the heights!" The French columns surge forward, bayonets glittering in the rising sun. The fog lifts, revealing a brilliant golden light that bathes the battlefield. Napoleon later calls it the sun of Austerlitz. Under that radiant light, the French smash into the weakened center of the Allied line. Chaos erupts. The two emperors, confident only moments before, now watch their armies collapse. Cavalry charges thunder across frozen ponds. Cannons roar. Entire units are surrounded and forced to surrender. Some Allied soldiers flee onto thin ice, only for French artillery to shatter it beneath them. A horrifying, icy grave. By midday, the battle is over. Napoleon's victory is absolute. Austerlitz is more than a triumph. It is a masterpiece, a display of strategy so flawless that military academies still teach it centuries later. And for Napoleon, it is a declaration. He is not just a ruler. He is the master of Europe, a victory that costs too much and marks the beginning of the end. 7 years after Austerlitz, Napoleon stands at the height of his power. But power invites ambition, and ambition whispers dangerous dreams. Russia, massive, frozen, proud. A nation. Napoleon cannot intimidate or bend, so he launches the largest military campaign Europe has ever seen, the Grande Armée. Over 600,000 troops. But Russia refuses to fight a decisive battle. They retreat. They burn their own villages. They starve Napoleon's army, inch by inch. Finally, after months of exhaustion, the Russians turn and stand their ground at Borodino, a small village west of Moscow. It is September 7th, 1812. Dawn breaks over fields lined with earthworks, redoubts, and trenches. The Russian army waits, nearly 250,000 men strong. Napoleon rides to the front lines. He is not the same vibrant commander of Austerlitz. He is sick, exhausted, his intuition clouded by the weight of a vast empire. Still, he raises his binoculars, studies the enemy, and whispers, "We will open the gates to Moscow here." The battle begins with cannon fire so loud it shakes the earth. It is artillery on a scale the world has never seen. Smoke covers the battlefield like a storm cloud. The French advance, only to be cut down by Russian grape shot. The Russians counterattack with bayonets in brutal close combat. The fight for the Great Redoubt becomes legendary. Bodies pile so high that soldiers use them as makeshift cover. Hours pass, then more hours, then more. Borodino is not a battle of maneuver like Austerlitz. It is a grinding, merciless slaughter. Napoleon stands over his map, hesitating. He has the Imperial Guard, his elite reserve, still untouched. His marshals beg him to commit them, to deliver the killing blow. He refuses. Whether fear of failure, caution, or fatigue, we will never know. By nightfall, the French technically hold the field, but at what cost? The French suffer 70,000 casualties. The Russians suffer even more, but they are not destroyed. Napoleon wins the battle, but loses the campaign. He enters Moscow only to find it empty, burning, abandoned. Winter strikes, hunger follows. Ambushes tear apart his retreat. Of the 600,000 men he brought into Russia, only a fraction survive. Borodino becomes the turning point, a victory that feels like a defeat, a warning that even Napoleon cannot conquer the vastness of Russia. After the disaster in Russia, after defeat, exile, and humiliation, Napoleon does the unthinkable. He returns. For 100 electrifying days, Europe watches in shock as he rebuilds an army and reclaims the throne. But fate has one final battlefield for him: Waterloo. June 18th, 1815. Rain has soaked the ground all night. The fields of Belgium are thick with mud, slowing cannons, exhausting horses, and delaying the battle's start. Every hour lost is a gift to his enemies. Napoleon faces the British commander, the Duke of Wellington, entrenched on a ridge at Mont Saint-Jean. Wellington is cautious, brilliant, and determined to hold the line until the Prussian army arrives. Napoleon knows he must break the British quickly, before reinforcements arrive. The battle begins with a massive French assault. Cannons thunder. Cavalry charges crash against British infantry squares. Walls of bayonets that refuse to break. The farmhouses of Hougoumont and La Haye-Sainte become deadly fortresses. For hours, the battle sways back and forth. Napoleon looks ill, weary, older than his years. But when he hears distant cannon fire in the east, his heart sinks. The Prussians are coming. He orders desperate charges to break the British before it's too late. Marshal Ney leads a series of grand cavalry attacks, glorious, massive, but ultimately futile. The British hold. Square after square refuses to fall. By evening, the Prussians slam into the French flank. Napoleon makes one last attempt. He sends the Imperial Guard, the same reserve he refused to use at Borodino. They march forward, proud, disciplined, the elite of France. But even they cannot break the Allied line. Under relentless fire, the Guard hesitates, and then retreats. A cry echoes across the battlefield. La Garde recule! The Guard is retreating. Panic spreads. The French army collapses. Waterloo is lost. Napoleon's empire ends right there, on that rain-soaked field. Once a master of Europe, he is now a defeated man. He surrenders and is sent into exile on St. Helena, a lonely island far from everything he once controlled. Austerlitz made Napoleon the greatest commander of his age. Borodino showed that even victory has a price, and that some prices are too high. Waterloo ended an era, but not the myth. Today, Napoleon remains one of history's most fascinating figures. A genius, a conqueror, a flawed human being whose ambition redrew the map of Europe. 3 battles defined him. One raised him to the heights of glory. One warned of the cost of empire. One brought everything crashing down. But through triumph and tragedy, through genius and downfall, one truth remains. History has never forgotten Napoleon Bonaparte, and it never will.